Hi, everybody. This is Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show, where we are freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. We have an emergency broadcast release here on the Common Sense Show this evening. We are joined by Mike Adams of Natural News. And I know you're probably thinking, Mike was just on your show the other night. Yes, but events have transpired related to Mike's revelation with regard to his threat against him to expose something about Alex Jones, and they wanted to pay Mike $50,000. Well, this whole thing is now blown up. So let me throw it over to Mike. Mike, thanks for joining us, and tell us what's going on.
Thank you for having me on, Dave. Yeah, so you said it exactly right. Now, since I was on your show on Sunday, the Google-controlled ad network called AdRoll, they cut off Infowars, uh, blockading essentially about $3 million in revenue from Infowars each year, stripping from them the funding basically that they need to open a Washington D.C. bureau and do other things. And then the very next day, Google entirely banned the entire naturalnews.com content. Over 140,000 pages have been ripped out of the Google search index. You can't find naturalnews.com anywhere in Google search anymore, including Google search UK, including Yahoo search, which has also adopted some of Google's censorship and bans. So this is an outright censorship, and we checked with Google. It's not due to any technical issue. There's not malicious code. There's not malware, nothing like that. We received no warning message from Google, even though we're tied into their what's called Webmaster Tools. Instead, what we now know is that this was a human decision made by someone at Google to banish the entire naturalnews.com website. So it's a human decision, not an algorithm, and it took place basically 4 or 5 days after I was threatened and told that if I did not take out Alex Jones, that they were going to destroy me. So it seems they've made good on their threat. This might be just the beginning. I'm not even sure, but they're now definitely trying to silence the independent media and commit economic sabotage against the independent media. And Dave, just to let you know, Google normally in a normal month, just in terms of organic searches, will deliver to Natural News, because of our 140,000 pages of outstanding content, over 1.8 million visitors. And so they've cut that off, just as they've cut off Infowars with the ad revenue. So that's where things stand right now. It's an all-out war. Censorship is on. This is electronic fascism, modern day electronic book burning. Google is the Fourth Reich at this point, and they are trying to silence independent voices.
Okay, well, so if someone were to go to Google and put in newstarget.com, what would they come up with?
Well, if they were to search for natural news, you're not going to see any pages from naturalnews.com anywhere. You're only going to get natural.news, which is a small domain that we launched as a backup in case this happened. Uh, but most of our articles aren't there. So all 140,000 pages from naturalnews.com have been ripped out of Google search results. You won't see a single one of them. We've confirmed it. It's thousands of readers have already confirmed it as well.
That is absolutely incredible. So the only way they can get to you right now is to directly type in into the URL. Is that correct?
Right. People need to go to their browser and just type in naturalnews.com directly and go to our website. Or they can use our own search tool, goodgopher.com, which we launched also anticipating exactly this kind of thing happening. Good Gopher searches just independent media. It searches about 5,000 plus indie media websites.
Wow, this is absolutely incredible. I'm on the internet right now, Mike, looking at this, and you're absolutely right. I went to Google search and I put in natural news, and you're correct. It comes back as natural.news.
Yep. That's it. This is a full-on censorship move. It comes again just days after I was threatened, and I went public refusing to take part in the takedown of Alex Jones, whatever they wanted me to do. I said no, not going to do it. Take your best shot, and then they banned me from Google completely. So look, Dave, think about what this means. This means that whatever elements are trying to take down conservative voices are also controlling Google. It's all the same traitor group. It's all the same anti-American, anti-Trump group, and they are beyond conspiratorial. I mean, this is blocking a library of knowledge that has saved thousands of lives because of our coverage of disease prevention and nutrition and the toxicity of pharmaceuticals and so on. There are people that are going to literally die if they don't get some alternative health information that they would find at Natural News. And Google is willing to literally dissociate or disconnect people from life-saving information in order to punish me for not attacking Alex Jones. I mean, think about how sinister that is.
I just wonder what kind of legal recourse is there, because this is clearly extortion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is racketeering. I'm sure there must be felony crimes that have been committed in this whole circle involving Google. There's no question. If Trump had a better handle on things in Washington and the entire establishment wasn't trying to destroy him, we would appeal to Trump and say, get the Federal Trade Commission in on this. But he's got his own deep state, betrayals to deal with right now.
It's funny you'd
So
mention
it's
this.
just an all-out war.
Well, I do think Trump needs to take the time to address this issue with you and Alex Jones. Number one, he is where he is to some degree because of the work that we did in the independent media. We were at the forefront of exposing the criminality of Hillary Clinton and supporting Donald Trump at every turn in that regard. And we were also supporting Donald Trump's programs, his agenda, his platform. So I'm not going to say he owes us, but I would think he would be looking for friends where he can find them, and he knows he can depend on us. So he should be sicking the FTC on Google. In fact, let me say something to the listening audience that may not have heard our interview on Sunday night. And I don't know if this was part of their decision to come after you and then I'm next on the list, but I made it really clear to you in our conversation when you talked about the extortion demand that they made on you to go after Alex Jones. I also singled out Jeff Bezos, and I said that I have uncovered evidence, and I did. I published it yesterday, that Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post have entered into a $600 million deal with the CIA, and then ancillary to that, 16 other intelligence agencies. And I made the comment exactly as this on the show. How can you trust the Washington Compost to tell you the truth when they are the bitch of the New World Order and the intelligence agencies? And this is what I think this is part of it. I expect to be drawn into it. And then it's up to us now. We got to decide what to do. But I do think an appeal to Trump is in order. And I think all of us need to come out on our websites. Now, I will tell you this, Mike, what I'm going to do is, I don't have time to publish 10 articles a day, but I do have time to do about 5 or 6 between my podcast, my article. I'm going to start pulling some of yours off your website with more regularity and then linking back to news targets. So we're going to try to give you some visibility until they come after me.
Well, I appreciate that, Dave. This is what they're going to do. They are clearly targeting all of the outspoken voices of truth, patriot voices, anyone who is pro-Trump, anyone who wants to defend the republic. It's very simple. Anyone who tells the truth is slated for destruction. This is digital character assassination. This is the equivalent of shooting you in the head online to silence you. And this is what fascist states do. This is a modern day electronic book burning. It's being carried out. The plan is being carried out day by day. Google is part of it. No doubt Bezos is part of it. The Washington Post put out the fake Russian conspiracy theory news and even named a source that said that Natural News was working for the Russians, which is so absurd it's laughable. I mean, we are anti-communists. So it is a massive conspiracy to silence the truth. And I can't help but think that this is all part of some kind of a prelude, Dave, before they're going to try to do something big to take out Trump. Something big. They have to take the independent media offline so that we cannot reply and let's say, deconstruct their false flag or whatever they're going to do. They have to silence the independent media first and then take out Trump, and then there will be no one to speak up for what really happened. That's the obvious conclusion of where this is all going.
Well, it's interesting because there weren't contrary voices in 1963 when John Kennedy was murdered. And we would be the contrary voices that would not listen to the lone nut assassin with a diary theory that would be put forth again. I think you're absolutely right. They need to remove the media before they kill Trump. I totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
Well, look at every major, even terrorist type of event. Look at Oklahoma City. That was basically before the internet existed. Even 9/11 in 2001, the independent media wasn't anywhere. It wasn't mature at that time. It barely existed. I wasn't. I mean, I was barely writing at that time, and many others were barely writing. So, if they want to pull off something big now, they have to silence all of these independent, decentralized, intelligent analysts. And you're an analyst, and I'm an analyst, and many others out there are analysts. We look at information, we project the data, we connect the dots, we fill in the blanks. And because of that, we are a threat, we are a danger to the status quo that absolutely hates freedom, hates the republic, hates the Constitution, and hates Trump. So this is an all-out war at this point. It's on, Dave.
I just wonder how long it's going to be until the shooting starts.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. I mean,
Mike, I don't see any way
I'm
that we get out of this without a civil war. I have said it many times now, and clearly the other side is going to do what they have to do. I think they would detonate a nuclear warhead in a major American city
no question.
to stop Trump. I have no question they would do that.
Yeah, I've made the same assessment exactly. Or unleash a radiological dirty bomb in a city. Whatever it takes, they are willing to do it. I mean, they're proving it day by day. Look at this. This is economic sabotage. This is silencing an important reservoir of knowledge. What they are doing is following in the footsteps of literally Adolf Hitler while they're calling Trump Hitler. I mean,
I
think
know.
of the hypocrisy in all of this. It's insane.
I know. Well, it's interesting. The founding fathers gave us the right to bear arms to protect ourselves against a totalitarian government. And now these same people who are calling Trump, Hitler, and a fascist still want to take away our guns. I mean, that's crazy.
Hmm. Well, and they want to silence our voices. They want to take away our First Amendment and our Second Amendment and basically all the other rights and just rewrite the entire system of government to be, well, essentially, a fascist slash communist Marxist system. I don't know exactly which flavor they would settle on, but it would certainly be on the radical, violent left.
This is just almost like I just woke up in a nightmare. I mean, this is how I'm feeling right now with you and Alex under attack. And honestly, Mike, I have to tell you, I don't think very many people know about this yet because otherwise my phone would have been ringing off the hook.
Yeah, it's just starting to really go viral. People, we've had thousands of people respond to my article about it. Um, Facebook is getting word of this and it's spreading very quickly. But look, it's not about natural news per se. What it's about is the fact that Google has now decided it's going to banish entire websites based solely on Google's opinion of what is appropriate text. Now that makes Google the Ministry of Truth or the Department of Truth. I mean, it is Orwellian to every degree. And if they're going to decide that, well, the Health Rangers content is no longer appropriate, then you're next. You and many of our colleagues are next too. And they're just going to go down the line and just start silencing and cutting off website after website after website until they have a totalitarian info monopoly, a technocracy run by the radical left that hates liberty. That is their goal, and they're now getting very aggressive in
Mm-hmm.
doing it. They're taking steps every day.
Mike, I had a friend who retired from FEMA, and I had known him for 20 years. We hung out together, knew his family, and he showed up. This is the last year I was coaching college basketball, and he showed up in my office in October of 2012 and I was coming out of the gym, and I was so shocked to see him. And he and his wife were there. We talked for about 3 hours, and he told me we're bugging out. And I said, bugging out? He goes, oh, we're bugging out. And he and several other people, like-minded from the same agency and also from DHS, went to the southeast, and they formed basically a subterranean community. They had been building it for years, and they just said, when all hell breaks loose, we need to have portable air, water, so forth and so on. And I'll never forget what he told me. His specialty was counter bioterrorism. And he said to me, he said, there's a backlash coming. And I said, well, how do you say? He goes, keep doing what you're doing. But he said, I need to give you a warning. He said, we have people that monitor the internet for language and trafficking, and we do keyword searches, and we can tell where the country is going to go based on internet chatter. And I said, well, that kind of makes sense. And I said, so what's coming? He said, there's a populist movement coming. He said, the country is primed for it. But he said, I'm going to tell you something, Dave. He said, we have chemical and biological weapons the world has never seen. He said, stuff that you can't even imagine what it can do. And he said, I'm telling you right now, if that populist movement gets traction, they're going to unleash holy hell in that form when it's time. And those words have echoed. And I asked him in 2012, October of 2012, and he bugged out in December. I asked him, I said, how long do you think we have? He goes, it depends on the movement. He said, obviously, this wasn't the election, talking about the 2012 election. He said, but the next one probably will be. And he was right on the money. And when Trump got elected, he actually sent me a text and said, see, I told you. And I asked him, I said, how long? He goes, I don't think we have a year. He said, they're going to stop this any way they possibly can. So he's calling for chemical, biological attacks on major American cities delivered through the chemtrails.
Isn't it interesting, too, that Bill Gates just put out a piece that said he's worried about biological terrorism caused by this so-called CRISPR gene editing technology that can now be accessed by small, very little funding and small groups of people. So what they can do is they can set up a false flag bioterror attack, and they can have a patsy or a group of patsies ready to go. And they can name, I mean, hell, for all I know, they could name me, because I have a lab, even though we don't do genetics. Obviously, we do heavy metals testing, but that doesn't matter to them. They could name anybody, right? And just try to blame anybody in sight for releasing a biological weapon that happens to take out Trump, which is their goal in the first place. I agree with you. There's nothing they won't do. They will nuke an entire city if that's what it takes to stop Trump and stop the populist movement and get control back in the hands of the globalists. There's no doubt in my mind.
So here are your countermeasures. And I'm a man of peace, so let's take this for what it is. I'm just speaking strictly military history and options available to people who will not accept this. Won't be me doing it, but like they took out the bankers. When do you start taking out the globalists like George Soros? When do special ops, ex-RSOF, ex-military contractors, when do they say, we're not going along with this? And they start taking out key globalists. I mean, I think that's coming, Mike. I really do. In fact, I've been told it's a possibility.
Well, there are warring factions for sure inside the system, right? And there's also the pedophilia issue that's swirling around, and rumors that there are going to be mass arrests of some of the pedo rings in DC and other places. And that might be what's really setting off the globalists as well, because most of them are pedophiles. They're the ones engaging in the child sex trafficking, right? And they don't want to be exposed for that. So who knows? I mean, there are so many issues. Every day I wake up, I ask myself, which insanity is going to break first? I don't even know the answer, but I know that the world is going to be topsy-turvy here. It's happening every day now. And look, they wouldn't be silencing us unless something big was on the horizon.
You're so
Why
right.
do they need to silence Alex Jones, the Health Ranger, other independent media outlets? Why? back-to-back days. Why are we being silenced? The prelude to what? What is it? It's something big. It's something bigger than 9/11. It's something so big that they can't even allow us to speak about it. That's how big it is.
This is a preemptive strike. I totally agree with you, and I'm starting to think along the same lines as you. This is not just censorship. This is censorship with a purpose.
Yes.
Man, oh
Yes.
man, oh
Yes.
man. I mean, you're gonna keep my head spinning for a while on this, Mike, because I'm gonna sit down and actually think about what's coming. I will tell you what some people have told me, and we talked about this on the show a few days ago. I'm more convinced than ever from the people I talk to that Oroville Dam is going to go sometime before June gets here, and Governor Brown will do nothing to evacuate. And if you don't do preemptive evacuations, the Butte County Sheriff is already on the record saying we can't get the people out in time to make a difference. So you're going
Very
to
much.
have catastrophic loss of life. Then that's going to eliminate the opposition. I wrote an article about this today. It's going to eliminate the opposition to CalExit, and this is where the breakup of the United States begins, is with CalExit. And it's
Right.
not
Remember what you and I talked about? The Civil War begins in California. That was our
exactly,
topic Sunday.
exactly. And I'm seeing now that Trump will have to be out of the way, because before Trump would let that happen, because it's an illegal move. They need
Yeah.
30 states and a constitutional convention to approve CalExit, and they're not going to go get that. So they're going to have to assassinate Trump. They're going to have to neutralize the independent media and start the breakup. And I will tell you, Trudeau has already gone after Washington and Oregon to leave and become a Canadian province called Cascadia. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but he
Hadn't
said
heard that one.
he well, this was in the Seattle Times,
Wow.
and he sent 150 maple trees to the state capital of each state, trying to entice them. They're not going to go for it now, but I will tell you, Mike, if CalExit happens and we have this turmoil, what's to stop Washington and Oregon from happening?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
what's to
exactly.
stop La Raza from trying to make their claims on the Southwest?
Well, that's key as well. We talked about this on Sunday. I think that Governor Brown, if it comes to this, could in essence, deputize the illegals who are willing to fight for California's secession, because California would then have open borders with Mexico, and it would just eventually become reclaimed by Mexico or La Raza as a separate subculture. So, yeah, look, it's all on the table at this point. We've never seen these kinds of actions before. When has Google ever banned one of the world's largest natural health websites? It's never happened. When have these ad companies just cut off millions of dollars of revenue without warning, without justification, to patriot websites? It's never happened before. When have the threats come, like I described last week and on your show? That hasn't happened before, and it's not just us. I've been getting texts from other people in the patriot community who are telling me the same thing is happening to them. Another guy said he was offered $150,000 to turn against me, and then another guy says that his website was taken offline at the same time that mine was taken offline. It's a target list that the globalists are just going down the list and blocking sites, cutting off revenues, smearing people, character assassinations. This is not just because they hate what we say about vaccines. I guarantee you. This is a prelude to civil war or massive false flag or globalist intervention. This is a prelude to something huge.
Yeah, I'm still connected. I just checked. And but they're going to work their way down to me the same as everybody else. I'm going to wake up one morning and my email box is going to be filled, and people are going to say, "Where are you?" I already know this is going to happen, but you know what people need to do. And so, people who are listening to this, you need to visit News Target or Natural News every single day. You need to go there and you need to grab these articles, and you need to countermand Google by putting out Mike's articles every single day. Send them to your list. They they
Yeah,
they they can't stop that, Mike.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, our domain name is still under our control. And Google can't take our domain name away. Only the Department of Homeland Security can do that, and under Trump, that won't happen. Under Clinton, it may have happened, but under Trump, it won't happen. So we've got control of our domain. We're going to keep publishing every day. We publish twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, and we're doing, a dozen stories a day or so, something in that range. So yeah, you can always go to our websites and find the truth that's being censored. And ask yourself, what is it that we're publishing that is so dangerous that Google thinks that the public shouldn't even be allowed to see it? I mean, that's the question that should be on everybody's mind at this point. Are we that dangerous that they can't
Yes.
even allow people to see it? I mean, look, I'm looking at my website right now. We've got an article on biosludge. We've got the TSA running cocaine. We've got speed cameras found unconstitutional in Ohio. Medical fraud story. Bill Gates and Planned Parenthood. Just on and on. Venezuela starvation diet. These kinds of topics. Why is this such a threat that they have to silence us from Google? That's the question.
Well, I think it's just part of the anti-Trump movement, and this is what I would guess. There's two key issues here, and I think the health issue that you represent is certainly a strong ancillary reason. Here's how I see this. Number one, the free trade agreement repeals that Trump is talking about doing has actually started informally. This threatens to set back globalism, where the corporations are more powerful than the governments. It threatens to set that back almost 4 decades because the movement started before NAFTA. NAFTA just basically codified it. And then you look at the second issue is to have a global governance, you have to eliminate nationalism. And the way you eliminate nationalism is to erode cultures and language by erasing borders. And this is what we see in Europe and now to the United States and Canada. So what we're seeing here is the fact that Trump is threatened to turn back the globalist movement for a one
Mm-hmm.
world government. He's going to turn this back at least a generation, if not more, and they can't tolerate that. I mean, they're behind schedule. They were supposed to have all this done by 2000, and now Trump is threatening to set back the entire situation back to about 1970.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Their timetable of global domination is it's been put on hold by Trump and the populist movement and the independent media. It's very clear. We are really the only thing standing in the way between the globalists and their total global domination plan. And that doesn't make them very happy. And hey, they might even be exposed as the pedophiles they are too, which could really rock the boat in the global power structures. What about the Epstein and Clinton and the pedophile express? What was it called? The Lolita
Well,
Express jet
mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. If all that comes out, it's over for the globalists. So of course they're pulling out all the stops. Of course they're willing to nuke a city. Of course. I mean, all you have to do is study history to see what they're willing to do. Anything it takes. That's for them. The ends justify the means. It doesn't matter who they have to silence, or even in the case of the Clintons, who they have to kill to get it done. I mean, I suppose we're living in a more progressive society because I've been silenced but not executed yet, right? So I guess that's progress, but it's not freedom, and I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to keep fighting this every step of the way, every single day, until the republic is restored, liberty is restored, and we beat back these evil globalists and their global domination agenda. We're just not going to stand for it.
I think the pedophile issue is exacerbating the speed of which they're going to act. I think there's no question. It's the noose of Pizzagate rings tighter around their neck. I think that they're going to definitely speed up what they're doing, and I think that's forced their hand to some degree. But I got two things I wanted to tell you about very quickly, and then to tie this together. I'm coming out tomorrow with a broadcast. John McCain has been leaked, excuse me, as the White House leaker. It's John
Oh
McCain
yeah.
because look at
Oh man.
he has the listen. This is something I was given last night, and the source was my source behind Benghazi. This guy's never been wrong, and he sent the message to me through an intermediary, so it couldn't be tracked. And what I was told was John McCain is definitely the leak, and John McCain, being the head of the Armed Forces Senate Committee, has access to be able to do this. John McCain's in contact with the CIA. He did this on behalf of the CIA's interest. John McCain is linked to Pizzagate. And this is now, I held off for 24 hours because I like to put my finger in the air and I don't want to run with something that I got to just quote an unnamed source and have nothing else. But on the pundit, well, hold up, back up. When my son and I were driving home this evening, there's a local talk show host here who sounds like just you and me. And he's on regular AM, the biggest station in Arizona, KTAR. And his name is Darren Dammy. And he has a show called Reality Check, and it's on from 6 to 8 p.m. Arizona time. And when I'm in the car, I'm listening because it's like talking to you, Mike. Here's what he said tonight. He said John McCain is being fingered as the leak, and he's getting information as it's evolving. And there's a website, oh gosh, I think it's the Gateway Pundit. Does that sound right?
True Pundit.
True Pundit? Okay, because I received 2 emails from 2 longtime listeners to my show that were saying that this is now appearing on their site. So this is kind of what I was waiting for. I wanted more confirmation. But news release here, John McCain is the White House leak. He has tapped into Trump's private communications, Flynn's private communications, and he had the access with the CIA assistants, and also because of his position as the head of the Armed Services Committee, he had the ability to do this. And I'm coming with that in the morning, and I just blasted McCain yesterday. It's just like one thing after another with him, but that's not all. There are other leaks out there that talk about, and I'm hesitant to say this, so I'm going to put this out here as speculation from an unnamed source, that certain French politicians are in danger if certain people don't win. In other words, the French people, this is how I'm going to say it this way. The French people are supporting candidates who want to expel criminal Muslims from their land. And those politicians are being targeted, is what I've been told.
Yeah. Look, no question about it. Remember before the Brexit vote, they murdered one of the members of parliament there. I forgot. It was a woman. They murdered her to blame the pro-Brexit forces. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
They murdered her to blame pro-Brexit so that they could get sympathy for her and tilt the vote. Yeah, everything's on the table. And about McCain, let's not forget that McCain is the guy who sent a staffer to meet someone to pick up that fake dossier on Trump that I think BuzzFeed eventually ran, and then CNN ran with as well. That dossier that had all kinds of insane false accusations, like that he hired prostitutes to urinate on hotel beds or whatever. McCain was deep into that. So it makes perfect sense that he's the leaker inside of all. Look, McCain's a traitor. McCain, I mean, it's obvious in his politics too. I mean, he gets accolades from the radical left for his moderate positions. If you're being complimented by the left, you're not working for America, right? You're an opponent of America at that point. So yeah, it's all on the table.
Well, I have a history with McCain, and I'll just share this anecdote real quick. A lot of my listening audience has heard this, so I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, Mike, but I don't know that you know this. When my wife and I purchased what someday would have been our retirement home out in the country, it was idyllic. And then very shortly after that, we were told, you're too close to an Air Force base. We're 30 miles away. The planes have to fly over 250,000 people to even reach us. So we knew that was bullcrap. And then we found a Plan Canamex corridor map, which is the transportation corridor for the Central American Free Trade Agreement, of which John McCain was a co-sponsor with the late Ted Kennedy. And there were 4 areas whose property rights were totally stripped, and they all were Canamex corridors, and they all 4 used military bases as the excuse, even though you could see it was bogus. And
Uh-huh.
so I exposed this in the media. This is how I got started. My first radio show came because I was representing my community as the spokesperson, and a local radio station owned by what became a friend of mine said, Dave, you need to have your own show. So he put me on the air, and I went after McCain with a vengeance, and we developed some affiliates. And this is when he was trying to become president, get the nomination in 2004 that he didn't successfully get. And we followed him on the primary trail. I was going on like Good Morning Connecticut and say, we just want to tell you what it's like to have John McCain doesn't respect the Fifth Amendment. This is what he's done to us. You guys don't want anything to do with him as president. Well, while this is
Uh-huh.
going on, I was summoned to the state capitol, and there was a local representative there named John Nelson, who's another dirtbag, and he had some of McCain's staffers at this meeting, and we brought a couple of representatives who supported us, and it was a big shouting match, and I was told by one of the staffers, McCain doesn't like it, and you're going to live to regret it. 1 week later, I'm driving home after coaching a game, and I get out onto the country road, and two people tried to run me off the road. A chase ensued. I was on with 911 for 10 minutes. I finally got them to break off the chase because I got to our local rural fire department where I'm friends with these guys. And they came out and chased these guys off. Now, the 911 tapes disappeared. And you'll like this one, Mike. I was then interviewing a short time later Jim Mars. And in the last minute of the show, and we were broadcasting from our home inside the city, 8 shots fired over the house with 2 witnesses.
Oh, really?
These aren't coincidences. These aren't coincidences.
Right.
And I will go to my grave believing it was the thugs of John McCain retaliating against me for me speaking out against him. And see, this is the same thing. Jeff Bezos and Mike Adams and Alex Jones, John McCain trying to intimidate me into shutting up. It's all their genre. This is how these people are. And Americans who are listening to this broadcast need to realize they're not going to stop with Mike and myself and Alex or Steve Quayle. They're coming after
Uh-huh.
everybody. They're going to work their way down to every person in this country.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's it. It's just like that saying, first they came for the socialists, and then they came for the labor unionists, and then they came for this and that, and then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me, right? They're coming for us now.
I
They're
know.
literally coming for us. It's happening every day. Tomorrow you wake up, you got to scan all the independent media websites to find out who's still online. Who's still alive. You better call your friends, make sure people are still there. We got to have ping tests for colleagues now to see who's awake and still speaking. It's becoming that bizarre.
You're absolutely right. And people, let me ask you this final question, Mike. I see class action antitrust suit.
Oh yeah,
Is
I do too.
yeah, and that's why they made a real dumb move, because tagging you and Alex Jones together, you guys have the wherewithal to put up a hell of a fight.
That's true. Yep. Between the two of us, we reach, in a given month, easily tens of millions of people. That's a very conservative estimate. Yeah. It's a huge mistake on Google's part if they don't reverse this. And even if they do reverse it, they've proven that they can just do it at any moment whenever they want. And which means they can do it again right before a false flag, or right before a coup attempt against Trump, or right before some event that they don't want any independent media covering. And so actually what this does is it reinforces the importance of every patriot starting a blog, starting a website, sharing news with others, because this needs to be a decentralized network of individuals who are passionate about telling the truth, about protecting the republic, standing up for liberty. Because if they can't stop the entire network by just taking out the top 1 or 2 or 3 spokespeople, then the network is redundant. It's resilient to even nuclear attacks. It's like the very structure of the internet. TCP/IP was created as a redundant packet transfer system that can reroute in case of nuclear war. That's what TCP/IP is. That's the underlying protocol behind the entire internet. So the internet was designed to be resistant to takedown attempts. So that's why we're the perfect mirror of the internet. We the people, we the independent journalists, we the passionate patriots. We speak out, and there's many of us, and they can silence one or two or three, but they can't silence everybody. That's for sure.
You know, Mike, you just had a brilliant idea, and before we go, I want to emphasize this. Everyone listening to this needs to start their own blog, and you can do them for free. There are services where you can go for free, and if you're doing this in the name of freedom, you have my permission to grab my articles and display them any way you want. You can replay my shows. And I think that people across the way are going to say, yeah, go with it. Let's not let them suppress us. I mean, what are they going to do? Take down the entire internet? No, they might, but let's make them work at it. And I'll tell you, they won't do it. And I'll tell you why, Mike. They're not going to go any further than what they're doing because they want to make money too.
Yeah.
By the way,
That's true.
did you know what I was told about YouTube? This is really interesting. We're talking Google again. YouTube bans people or demonetizes them because of content in their title. So if you say, hey, the U.S. and Russia are moving towards war over Syria, now that's a legitimate CNN, Fox News, ABC News headline. You put it on your YouTube title, they're demonetizing your video. Now, what they've done is we've learned how to get around the demonetization for the most part. Now they have put algorithms in computers, and they're looking for the same language. The same language in your speech. So they're trying
Yep.
to monetize you there as well too, and take away your revenue. So this isn't going to stop, and this is just going to get worse and worse. And what I don't understand, well, I think it's too soon to talk about an alternative. But what I think people need to realize is this is going to be across the board. Mike, what would you?
It's a huge mistake on Google's part strategically, though, as well, because it proves to the public, as this story spreads, it proves to people that Google is fake search. You know how we have fake news, CNN and Washington Post and New York Times? Google has become fake search. And who wants fake search? Who wants to type in a search term and have the most independent sources removed from those search results? You know, nobody really wants that. They want real search. They want to, you know, on issues like vaccines, they want to see both sides of the argument. You know, our side is mercury is toxic. The vaccine side is that mercury is super delicious and highly nutritious, and children should be injected with more of it. Now, you can decide which side makes more sense, but only if you can see both sides of the argument. What Google is saying is that the natural news side of the argument will no longer be available for people to even become aware of. They won't even know what they're missing because it's not there. It's the memory holding of natural news, and that when word of that spreads, Google will be discredited, and people will leave it, and people will stop trusting it the same way they've stopped trusting CNN. So we might actually be a milestone in the fall of Google, if you think about it.
Goodgopher.com is a good alternative to Google. And it's something that I'm using a lot, and I think that people out there need to make this their mission. Well, Mike, I appreciate you taking the time to share your concerns with us on such short notice, and we will put this out and give it all the attention we possibly can and keep us updated on what's going on.
Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate the invitation. I will keep you posted.